Good evening, welcome to the Buck Stops here. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program tonight, the Dujana tapes. Here an army major try and convince the Lashkar-e-Taiba's Kashmir chief Abu Dujana to surrender. This is before he was killed in the encounter. We also speak to the officer commanding the operation to eliminate Dujana. Our second debate, after the government ended rations for armed forces officers in peacetime locations, we ask, what is the larger message? Is there one? But first, let's bring you the Dujana tapes. Abu Dujana was a dreaded Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist. He was the Kashmir head of the Lashkar-e-Taiba. And just a couple of days back, he was trapped and eventually he was killed in an encounter. But it now emerges that a young major of the Indian Army tried to persuade him to surrender and also spoke to a family within the building where he was hiding. We're going to play out excerpts of these conversations. This first excerpt is of the officer speaking to people in the building where Dujana was taking refuge.
तो पता तुम्हें कॉर्डन हो रखा है, ये बोल रहे जाओ तुम निकलो खुद ही हाथ ऊपर करके बाहर से।
हाँ वही तो पहले भी कुछ किसी और को भेजो ना, तो कोई हाँ सेवा ले भेजो।
तुम खुद आ जाओ ना, अब ये बोलता रहा कि खुद पहले बहन को या मदर को निकलवा।
मदर कहाँ है?
अच्छा तो बहन को निकलवा। और भी कौन कौन लेडीज कौन कौन है?
बस बहन
और
भाई 3 और एक मेहमान है।
भाई 3 लेडीज, ये अपनी बाप का है? अंदर ही है। तो उस बूढ़े को भेजो पहले बाहर, फिर या तो अपनी सिस्टर को तो भेज, उसको बोल अपनी सिस्टर को इसको भेजेगा पहले। जब ये आएगी अकेले भेज इसको ऊपर, नहीं तो भेजेगा वो
उसको कैसे भेजेगा सर? ये तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो बोल रहा है ना, कोई नहीं मिलेगा बात। तो पहले कुछ बोल रहा है जाओ, फिर बोल रहा नहीं हो, थोड़ा फ्रस्ट्रेशन में है।
मेरी बात कराना उससे एक बार, उसको बोल ऐसे
नहीं सर।
तू लेके जा फोन उसको बोल कि ये उसको तो पता है कि तू मेरे से मिला हुआ है, 1-2 बार मेरे से बात की है तूने, है ना? तो उसको बोल ये ले, वो बात करना चाहता है मेजर आर्मी का, करवा बात उससे, सीधे पकड़ा उसको, बोल एक बार कर, कोई बात नहीं, क्या होगा बहन, क्या हो जाएगा।
Well, eventually the people who the major was speaking to did manage to get out alive out of that building. But the next part of the conversation is when this major actually speaks to Abu Dujana himself and tells him to surrender.
तो क्यों सरेंडर क्यों नहीं करता?
करूँगा सरेंडर है दोस्त।
क्यों भाई?
10 निकले शहीद होने के लिए। अरे यार आज ही मरना, कल ही मरना।
अरे ठीक है, वो जो निकले थे तो निकले थे, तेरे को तो पता है ना अभी क्या है, सब खराब है, ये गेम है सब।
मैं क्या करूँ, इसको गेम खेलना चलो, मुझे अपना रास्ता लेना देना है।
यार सुन मेरी बात भाई, तूने शादी की है उससे यार, लड़की से?
मैंने कोई शादी बात नहीं की, सब झूठ है, एक मतलब प्रोपेगेंडा है। शादी बात मुझे किसी को कोई शादी बात नहीं की।
तेरे को था उसे तू करना, तू अपनी सोच यार, तू तेरे माँ बाप है बाहर यार, बाहर
माँ बाप तो उस दिन मर गया जिसने उनको छोड़ के आया।
अरे यार उनके लिए तू थोड़ी ना मरा है, तू नहीं मरा उनके लिए। मैं तू तैयार हो, मैं करवाऊंगा, मैं कब बोल रहा हूँ।
और सुनाओ क्या
यार, अभी ये कौन सा टाइम है हाल का, हमारा ठीक है यार।
अरे आप कुछ भी यही टाइम में बताओ, बहुत दिन बाद, बहुत सालों बाद आपसे कितने बात हो रही है। हम जोर से खेल रहे थे उस दिन।
यही तो है, और ये गेम अब खत्म ही कर दे यार, इसको ऐसा कुछ नहीं।
कभी आप आगे हम पीछे, कभी आप पीछे हम आगे, चलो
यार
आपने पकड़ लिया, मुबारक हो आपको।
नहीं देख, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, तेरी अपना काम था, तू अपने फर्ज पे निकला था, हम अपने फर्ज पे निकले हैं। छोड़ दे, मान ले यार, मान ले,
नहीं
मान बात, कोई बात नहीं, कुछ नहीं होगा।
नहीं वाला नहीं यार।
देख ये लोग भी मारे जाएंगे, इनको पार से छोड़ेंगे नहीं इसी चीज में, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है।
And in this final excerpt that we've selected, you can hear the major speak to Abu Dujana and tell him that, look, this is no jihad as he had been trained. Now remember, Abu Dujana had come across from Pakistan. He was Pakistani and he'd been brainwashed, as terrorists are, who come across to explain that there was some sort of jihad. But in this conversation, he's actually told that, look, you've seen what Kashmir is about. Is there any jihad happening?
तो सब पता है यहाँ पे क्या गेम है, तो सब जान चुका है,
मुझे सब पता है, मुझे A to Z पता है, क्या है, कौन क्या गेम है, क्या मतलब सिस्टम क्या है, सब कुछ मुझे पता है।
तो फिर देख, तुम्हें भी तो पता है कि ये जिहाद नहीं है। लोग निकले जिहाद के लिए, पर ये जिहाद नहीं है ना यार। फिर तुम निकलो यार, तुम ही लोगों को समझाओगे तभी तो खून खराबा कम होगा। तुम लोग नहीं बताओगे तो फिर कौन मानेगा यहाँ पे? वही मुझे
जानते हैं, वो उनको पता ही है।
मुझे मालूम है यार, मुझे मालूम है, मुझे अच्छे से पता है। पर तू जब देख, तू खड़ा होगा, तू बताएगा यार, तू मेन कमांडर है बड़ा, बताएगा तो ये चीज है, चीजें सामने होंगी यार लोगों के। यहाँ तो कश्मीरी मरते रहेंगे यार।
अच्छा ठीक है यार।
देख यार भाई, देख, तू कर कुछ, तू बोल, बना अपना माइंड, इसके बारे में सोच यार, इस लड़की के लिए सोच।
Well, ultimately, Dujana didn't surrender. He was killed in an encounter over there. Fortunately, the people who he'd held hostage did eventually get out of that building. One of the people in that building was apparently a woman that Dujana was very close to. Apparently, she may have been his wife. Other accounts say that this woman could have been his girlfriend or a friend. Well, joining us now, the commanding officer of 55 RR, that's the army unit that was part of this operation. The CRPF was also involved, Jammu and Kashmir police were also involved, and Colonel K. Norial is the commanding officer of the major who you just heard. Colonel, thanks very much for speaking to us. Thanks very much indeed. What exactly does this conversation indicate? What exactly does it prove?
Yeah, first of all, before I go on to what the conversation between the company commander and Dujana reveals, I would like to tell you that this tape reveals a lot. Firstly, it is the trust and faith and the relationship between the armed forces and the Awam, which is there. And that is how this particular house owner had a trust on this company commander, and that's how he spoke to the company commander and requested him, in case he and his family members who had been sort of held as a hostage by Dujana could be given a safe passage. So the company commander then thereafter spoke, told this house owner that in case he can speak to Abu Dujana. So the conversation with Abu Dujana started off, wherein first of all the company commander told Abu Dujana to surrender, and he told him, in fact for good about 2 to 3 minutes he just told him about him being surrendered, and confirmed that in case he surrenders he will be taken into safe custody of army and police. However, he had some other thing in his mind, and he actually denied this option of surrendering. The second question which the company commander asked was that he told Dujana that you are well aware you had come here for some jihad initially, but once you came here you had seen here there is no such problems here in Kashmir per se, and there is no harassment of locals by anyone including armed forces. There is no human right violations which is taking place. So this though Dujana understood, because he was saying karke, he was replying, and then he also brought out this issue, this company commander, that you people are being played as puppets in the hands of our adversaries. So I think you understand that, and it's a bigger game plan. So this time Dujana though replied that ठीक है, क्या कर सकते हैं. This itself gives out that in the heart of heart he also accepts that he is being played as puppet in the hands of his adversaries.
Who fired first when the encounter took place? Did security forces fire at him, or did Dujana start the encounter, as it were?
Now, obviously, not only this audio conversation was taken as the thing that Dujana would surrender. Once the family members and the house owner were let free by Dujana after striking this conversation, he let them free. Let them scot-free. So once the house owners and family members were out, so what we did was that we caught hold of the Maulvi and Sarpanch of this village Hakripura, and we told them to announce to Dujana and his associate to surrender, and still time is there, and he should have that much of trust and faith on the armed forces and security forces. However, again he retaliated back with the fire, and thereafter the firefight ensued.
Sir, I'm just curious, who had he gone to visit? Because there were some accounts suggesting that he'd gone to visit his wife, other accounts that he had many girlfriends who he'd gone to visit. So where exactly had he gone? Who did he try and meet?
See, as far as his thing is concerned about having affairs with the girls and going into any of the house and doing whatever he feels like with the girls, so it is a correct thing. And however, this particular girl reportedly and supposedly she is supposed to be his wife, and that is what we also feel.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much for speaking to us. Colonel Norial, the commanding officer of 55 RR, explaining to us the circumstances in which Abu Dujana was eliminated, but not before he was given an opportunity to surrender.